Your bedroom light is on. Do you know that?
No.
Do you want it on?
No.
Yeah, that's right. You're wasting electricity over there. Meanwhile, I've had my AC on all day. Yeah, you better go get. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Apartment 6. It's just me today because Marissa forgot to turn off her bedroom. Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Stop. What are you doing? Are you making fun of me? Or do you just want to open today? You can open
today.
Just open. You want to open? That's so annoying. Okay.
I'm not going to say it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Apartment 6 podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Marissa.
That was too much. I can't let you do that. Unless you want to just move on.
It's fine.
Okay, hi. We're back. So we're getting more casual, as you can tell. We kind of don't feel it necessary to redo our intro 3 times, and we just think it's funny if our intro is us just opening hello.
You know how people are when they're dating, they say I'm ready to get serious?
Yes.
We're saying we're ready to get casual.
Yes.
So it's the
That's
opposite.
so true. Seriously casual.
Are you ready to get casual?
Yes.
I'm dabbing.
So we're sipping on some rosé, some grapefruit rosé, courtesy of our friend Jen, who gave it to Marissa for a birthday present this last week.
Yeah.
And Marissa popped some frozen raspberries into it, and we're just living.
It's delicious. It's the fruit salad of alcohol.
Okay.
Grapefruit wine and frozen raspberries. It's like a little fruit salad.
Yeah, so true. You get the grapes, you get the grapefruit.
Yeah, I also
And
had
raspberries.
blueberries I could have put in here.
I feel like raspberries go with it because it's tangy.
That's what I thought.
It's also 90 degrees outside, and so we're recording in our scorching hot living room with the windows open because it's now cooled down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's at night, and Marissa's phone oscillating on us. So to set the scene for you, that's the scene. I just said it. And
scene set.
Let's move on to our roses and thorns. Marissa, what's your thorn?
I forgot what. Oh, my thorn is that I am hitting my busiest time of the year at work. And the way that I've been describing it to people is that usually I'm working on 3 to 4 projects at any given time. But right now I have 14 or 15 projects on my plate. So I feel like that does the best job of explaining the difference of how much busier I am now. And yeah, I think Jess remembers, and other friends will also remember, that last summer around this time, when this busy season hit, I was miserable because not only was I given more work at that time, I was also, it was the first time that I was doing these particular tasks. So I was being trained and also being overworked at the same time. Whereas now, this year, I've already been doing this for a bit, so I don't need training anymore, but I still am being overworked. And I work in textbook publishing, so the reason it's so busy now is because we are working on books for September classes. So yeah, I had some nice time off this week, and I'll elaborate in my rose of why that was, but looking towards this coming week, that's going to be a full work week. I am not excited about going back there. Not that I have to go back anywhere because it's Corona, but
To mentally go back.
yes, I have to go back to that headspace, and I don't want to. And that's my thorn. What is yours?
That's real. I mean, I've been on furlough this week, so I'm like, oh my God, what am I going back to? I believe I'm going back to an announcement that I'm going to be on furlough for 2 more months. But
2 more months.
My thorn is honestly, I've had like a fine last week in like my own personal life. But like I've been feeling fine. But I did have to finally get start the process of getting a crown on my tooth. I got a root canal in a tooth when I was like 13, and it's not my fault, so don't come at me saying that I have gross dental hygiene, because I don't. I had a really shitty dentist who messed up my teeth, and I'm pretty sure there should be a lawsuit, but there hasn't been. And I ended up having to get a root canal and a tooth, and have been walking around for 10 years without a crown on it. And many people have told me I shouldn't do that. And my dentist has been like, you should get a crown. And I've been like, I don't want to. That's expensive. And finally I started the process this week, which means I just had to go in and like get my teeth like molded so they could make my crown. And in the meantime, I'm wearing a cap on my tooth. And so it just feels kind of funny. It's still sort of tender in that area. Like when I brush my teeth, the gums like around that area are sore. And I'll randomly get like some little aches, but it's not too bad.
Was getting the actual root canal painful? I feel like when I hear the words root canal, it sounds really painful in my head.
It does sound painful because they're literally going into your tooth and taking out all of the root and the nerves.
Nasty.
It was probably uncomfortable. I think all I really remember about it is that I had like TMJ in in like middle school, high school.
That's TMI. Just kidding.
Get out of here. Where like just like my jaw would hurt and it would click a lot, and I kind of just like grew out of it. It actually stopped when I got my wisdom teeth out, which those are like correlated for some reason. It doesn't really make sense, right? Because you're like, well, your jaw is like your jaw, like what does your jaw clicking or being misaligned have to do with wisdom teeth? But I don't know. I noticed that it went away after I got my wisdom teeth out during like my sophomore year of high school. But so the biggest thing I noticed was just a root canal is like a longer procedure than a cavity. So it's like my jaw was a little achy from having my mouth open for so long.
Yeah.
But of course, like they numb you, and this process was a little bit painful. Like it was like he had suction in my mouth that was like making my teeth really cold, and at the end the Novocaine was starting to wear off, but it like wasn't really worth giving me more Novocaine. And I could kind of like feel some stuff that was a little freaky and a little freaky deaky. I'm also nervous to get the cap taken off. Like I'm nervous he's just gonna accidentally pull my whole tooth out.
Oh my god.
But these are adult things. So I'm just doing it. I'm also back on the dating apps, y'all. So you could call that a thorn.
I was just trying to think of like a pun of like root canals and dating apps. Like I was trying to think like, yeah, and that's the root of your problem or something, but I couldn't get there.
Something about talking about needing like a fake tooth, like because basically a crown is like a fake tooth. But you know what? I'm really proud because he was putting all like this like the lineup of teeth next to mine to choose my whiteness, like how white my tooth would be.
Yeah.
And he was like, you have really white molars. Like your teeth are actually pretty white. I was like, well, thanks.
And
I felt really good about that.
You can show off those white teeth on the photos on your dating app profile.
Yeah. So it's been a funky couple weeks, but not like bad ones. But yeah, I did recently go through a breakup. So that's also a thorn in its own way, but you know. What's your rose?
My rose is that I had the best birthday ever.
That's so sweet.
I really did. I said it like a million times on the day, to the point where it probably was like, okay, Marissa, we know you had the best birthday ever. But I genuinely did have the best birthday that I've ever had. Maybe not with like family, because like I'm thinking of this, my 16th birthday, where instead of having a sweet 16 party, I chose to go to New York City and see Wicked, and I cried like a baby because I love Wicked. So that was probably like my best birthday ever in general, but this was like my favorite way that I've celebrated a birthday with friends. So basically, to quickly sum it up, I walked out of my room in the morning and saw that Jessica here had set up some balloons with my gifty in the living room.
I was trying to emulate Christmas morning.
Which I love.
You do love Christmas. Where you walk out and like your gifts are there and like you got like a tree, but we don't have a tree. I guess I could have put it under the plant. But
yeah, I was
trying to give that vibe.
I don't think I've ever yes, that's true. I've had that on Christmas where like you walk into the living room and you're like, Santa done did it. But I've never had anything like that on a birthday where someone like set something up for me, like balloons or decorations or anything like that. So it was just so nice to wake up to that, because it just felt like my birthday started right away. Like I was like, all right, like we're doing this. It is my birthday today. So that's what I woke up to. And then we took a stroll down to Coolidge Corner, which is one of my favorite little areas in Boston. I picked up some books from my favorite bookstore, and then we browsed TJ Maxx, which was like heavenly because it was the first time that we had really done that together in months and months. Then we headed back to our neck of the woods, and our friend Maddie met up with us, and we got ice cream from FOMU, which is like my favorite in Boston. And then we met our other friend Jen, who supplied this rosé to us, at a little grassy area where we got pizza and we had a picnic. And
you sound like a little kid.
Well, because this day made me feel like a little kid, because it was like I truly got like everything I would have wanted. Like it was as if someone had asked me before and was like, what do you want to have on your birthday? And I'd be like, well,
we did kind of ask you what you wanted to do, and you were like, I want to have a picnic.
Well, but it's like as if I was like, I want coffee and balloons and pizza and cake and like all this stuff that I would have listed. I got it. And I learned that Jess and Maddie had gone on a secret expedition the day before to get the balloons, and they also got a cake, which was the first time that our friend group had like bought a cake for someone, which was really fun. And we lit the candles in the park, which might have been illegal, but it was very fun. And I just sat there watching the three of them try to light all the candles, and the wind kept like blowing them out.
We all individually, like I had a lighter, Maddie had a lighter, Jen was using the other lit candles to light more candles.
I just like, in that moment, I was like, wow, these guys really love me. They want to light all 24 candles for me, even though it's really hard.
And we sang. It was very fun.
It was
very
so
sweet.
fun.
It was like really, we usually like go out to some sort of restaurant, like whether it's for lunch or for dinner or brunch or whatever the person wants to do on their birthday with this friend group. But we'll get dessert while we're out, or like we'll go back to someone's house and have like yummy snacks and whatnot. But we've never like gone to a store and just like bought a store birthday cake, which like I love. We all love store-bought birthday cake. So it was fun to like eat cake. Like,
yeah,
it's still in our fridge. Marissa was like, I'm leaving the last piece for you, because I was like, what, you need to eat the rest of your cake. There's like the teeniest sliver. It's so teeny that it like fell over, and I was like, Marissa, it's your birthday cake, like I can't eat it. And she was like, oh, but you bought it. I was like, well, technically Maddie bought it, and also like I'm pretty sure it's like bad luck for me if I eat the last piece of your birthday cake. Like that's messed up. I would never do that.
I don't know the laws of cake physics.
Well, she still hasn't eaten it. I feel like you're gonna end up wasting it.
No, maybe I'll have it after this. But I want to say thank you to you and to Maddie and Jen for being there on that day, and to everyone who I talked to on my birthday, who like wished me well from afar. I just felt like a whole lot of love on that day, and I really appreciated it, and it made me emotional. And it was the best birthday ever, like I said before. What was your rose?
My rose is literally just this whole last week. I had a really good, so I was on furlough, and so I didn't work, and I like lived it up. It felt like summer. Like I felt like a little kid on summer break because you had taken days off. Maddie just got out of school because she's a teacher, and so like we were all like available. So I was like, oh my God, this is fun. When like normally my furlough weeks, first of all, it hasn't been like this nice on one of my furlough weeks. Like the weather's been amazing here in Boston. Mm-hmm. And I just got distracted by an airplane. I just like had so much fun. Like every day we had something new going on. You know, we had Marissa's birthday, and then another day me, Marissa, and our friend Maddie went to Walden Pond and spent the day sort of like in nature. And then
we thoroughly enjoyed our day.
That was good. That was so good.
Thank you.
We did, yeah. We sucked the marrow from the bone. No, we sucked the marrow out of life, if you will. And then I babysat the cutest little 1-year-old that night, and then had to get my cat put on. But then on Friday, we went out again and got ice cream, and it's just been a good week. And it left me feeling really full. It left me feeling, you know, a little nervous about going back to work, just because like it's hard when you have like a certain amount of time off, and then you're like, oh gosh, like I'm out of the groove. Yeah. But it also left me feeling like, yeah, I guess there is nothing else to do but go back to work. Like I feel like I really had a good week. That was it. That was my rose. So next, we're gonna get into our voice memo portion, which we didn't do this last week because last week's episode, the Would You Rather episode, was done like on a whim. Like we had re-recorded some parts of the previous episode before that one, that was about like us moving in together. And so while we sat there re-recording, we were like, well, let's just like record an episode now. Like we're kind of in the mood to record. So we didn't do it because I didn't have time to pick out a voice memo. But this week I got one, and I'm proud of it because it actually ties into our theme today.
Wow.
A little bit.
Very nice.
You'll see why, I think.
Okay.
All right.
And I just wanted to thank you again for being one of those people. I don't know if you'll listen to this before or after you see my story, but when I talk about like, you know, getting to college and finding people to talk about mental illness with, and you know, finding an audience who was welcoming and gave me the confidence to talk, and also like was brave enough to share their own stories, enough for me to know about different people's experiences and the different struggles that people go through and whatever. I'm rambling, but what I mean to say is just that like you're a huge part of what I'm referencing when I say that, and you also are a huge part of what I say, you know, about how grateful I am that people share their stories, just like you did today, and just like you've done with me multiple times about your anxiety. So yeah, just thank you. Any hoozle.
So that's it. I listened to the whole voice memo, so it was only 12 minutes long, so I have a lot more context, but do you happen to remember what that's from?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so surprised. So this voice memo, by the way, is from October 10th, 2018.
So I recorded that on, I believe it was like World Mental Health Day or something, and I had posted this. At the time I was commuting to work in Boston, but living at home in the South Shore. And I remember seeing that it was this day and seeing people post about it. And I got the urge to just like contribute my own voice to the story. And so I remember I got off the train from Boston, and I sat in my car and I recorded an Instagram story where I don't remember much of what I said, but I remember talking about how there have been multiple situations involving mental illness in my family. And when I was younger, I really didn't have anyone to talk about those things with because my family kind of babied me and sheltered me from it, so I couldn't talk about it candidly with them. And I didn't have friends at the time who I was talking about those sorts of things with. And honestly, I don't even think I would know how to talk about those things at that time. So I just talked about that, and I talked about how that changed for me when I went to college because I met people like Jess who were good at talking about mental illness, both because they were mature and good communicators, but also because they had experienced it in their own lives. So yeah, that I think I must have, maybe you sent me a voice memo after seeing my story and told me what you thought, or you texted me, because it seems like I'm talking to you like you've watched it and you told me your feedback or something.
Yeah, so you're spot on about like all of the context of it. Like, it was World Mental Health Day, and the reason that you were saying this to me is because sorry, I'm just like I put up a post about my anxiety and where my anxiety started on like my blog, my website, which is now like a portfolio space, but I technically have a blog on it so that if I ever want to write, I can. And you referenced that a lot in this. I think that's, and then you made your post or something like that. So yeah, and you like say some really nice things about it in here. Like, you're like, that's one of my favorite things you've ever written, blah, blah, blah. Like, really nice. But I wasn't going to leave that all in. But
everyone
really
listen to how good my blog was.
Yeah, I really liked this minute because you talk about you meeting people who made you feel like you could talk about those kinds of things, and who sort of enlightened you to feelings that you had already experienced but didn't know that you had experienced and didn't necessarily claim as your own yet. And so like on this World Mental Health Day, I had shared like the story of how my anxiety started, and then I don't remember your Instagram story at all. Like, I don't remember what you specifically talked about, but that's the problem with stories, is they're only 24 hours. So I haven't ever encountered it since.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting because I didn't know if you would even remember like what you talked about, but you do. So yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, that's funny. It's a moment in time that I like wouldn't have just called up organically, but now that I hear that, I can like so distinctly picture like me sitting in my car after work at the train station, like very vividly remember it. That's one of my favorite things about this voice memo segment is like we're able to like raise things to our consciousness that might have been buried before.
Yeah.
And we might never have remembered like doing certain things or saying certain things or feeling certain things, but hearing like the content of these and also like the tones of our voices in these is just really interesting to like revisit our past selves.
Yeah. And so our topic today is about friendship, and like not our friendship specifically,
because you've heard enough about
I've heard a lot about it, but rolls eyes, but friendships in general. And so this whole episode is actually inspired by my mom, Miss Patty Kasparian.
Miss Patty. Just like in Gilmore Girls.
Miss Patty. Oh my God, I never had thought about that before. But yeah, Patty Kasparian, my mom, she inspired this episode because one of the best pieces of advice she's ever given me is that you can have different friends for different reasons. And that sounds really simple, different friends for different reasons, but it's something that it's like a mantra almost that she's repeated to me over and over again. If I'm like having issues with a friend or if I'm complaining about a friend, she says different friends for different reasons. And so that's what our whole episode is about today. And in that voice memo, you sort of are saying like, oh, I found these kinds of friends that I realized this is what I like to talk about with them, or this is what I can talk about with them. Whereas before you hadn't really had those kinds of friendships. So I felt like it was very applicable.
Yeah. It's funny hearing you, that little blurb you just used to describe it, how you said it sounds simple but it's not. I swear that's exactly what you said to me when you first told me this advice, because we were talking before sitting down to record, and you were asking me if I remembered like why you had said this to me, because that's the other part of it. Like your mom said it to you, but then you passed it on to me, which is cool. But I vividly remember being in our college dining hall, you telling this to me. And I swear that now that I've heard you say, it sounds simple, but it's not. I swear that's exactly what you said when you told me.
Because it does. It sounds like really simplistic, where it's like, well, yeah, obviously you have different friends for different reasons. Not every person is the same. Mm-hmm. But what it really means to me, and the way that my mom intended for me to take it, was that you can, just because one friend isn't perfect in every aspect of your friendship doesn't mean that you can't keep a healthy relationship with them, but it's recognizing what they're able to give you and what you're able to give them, and not pushing it beyond that with unreasonable expectations. It's saying, okay, this friend isn't necessarily someone I feel like I can trust, or someone I would go to with a hardship, or someone I would, expect to be at my side during really important times, but I can go out with them and have a really fun day. I almost think of it, it's funny because I always visualize it as like the person you like go to the club with on a Saturday night versus like the friend you call when you like go through a breakup or something, but like I don't go to the club.
Yeah.
So it's just like, to me, it's like the friendships that you have where it's like you can really trust the person, and if something happened in your family, like they're like, okay, well, like if it happened to you, it happened to me, like, and you go through everything with them. And then there's the friends that you're like, we can go out for an outing and have a good time and like shoot the shit, but like we don't necessarily learn a ton from each other. And I think that we tend to think like, oh, well, if I can't trust them, or if they're only good for a good time, like that's not a good friend. But it just means that like, as long as you guys are both on the same page, that is what your friendship is, mm-hmm. It's fine, because it's no love lost, no love found kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that the two key words I tie into this are expectations and disappointment. Because the situation that you gave me the advice for was, I was feeling really disappointed by a friendship because I had set my expectations to a certain point and they weren't met. And getting the advice that like you can have different friends for different reasons gave me a different perspective, because in the moment that I was feeling disappointed, I was thinking, well, if this friend isn't giving me everything I need them to or want them to, then why should I keep them in my life?
Yeah.
And the answer is that they can serve a purpose in your life. They just don't have to serve every purpose in your life.
Yeah. Some friends are like that. Like I feel like you and I are people who like, we can have fun together and have a good time, but we also like can get real and sort of like
get real.
I think Dr. Phil is like, ready to get real. That's like his show tagline. But we can also like, yeah, like be there for each other through like hard shit too. So like that's lucky. You're lucky if you have one friend like that you can kind of, have the whole spectrum with. But a lot of people don't have that, or, they look to different friends for different reasons. And I also feel like, I was talking to a friend recently and she was saying, if I'm if I want to talk to someone about this, I might come to you because I know it's something that you're interested in. But if I'm feeling kind of bad about this, I might go to this person because I know it's something they resonate with. And that's true too. Is like even within your friendships, even if you consider them all sort of equal, like you would go to any of them in trouble or you would go to any of them for a good time, you even still within that have different things that you look to those friends for. And that's okay too. So we were in the dining hall. What was this like? Was this junior year? Set the scene for me, because I think I know the friend that you're talking about, but I think I don't know.
Yeah, you definitely. I think you do, but I can't remember what year it was, because the reason I can't remember which year it was is because this is a friend that disappointed me a few times. So it's not like I can say like. Yeah, I remember when you told me, because I remember the one time they disappointed me. There were a few times, so I can't really remember which of those times was the one that you told me that.
Was I also disappointed? Or was I sort of like I had come to terms with it? Yeah,
you weren't. I think you understood my disappointment, but you didn't feel it as much as I did that time.
Yeah. That time.
The tea.
Yeah, I mean, this friendship was also a hard one for me. And it also, I still have funky feelings about it. But yeah, I do know that I understand the disappointment you were feeling. I think that when I said this to you, I might have been at a place where I was coming to accept it, and maybe you weren't, and that's why I was telling you, because I was like, it's not so bad when you just think about the fact that, we can still have a great time all together, but we just can't rely on them to be our...
Yeah, I think I wanted this person to be like a rock in my life, like someone that I could turn to in any situation.
Because they were that at one point.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of what makes it harder, is that and that's another thing, is like when a friendship is all those things and then at one point they take away part of it, that really hurts.
Yeah,
and then you're left reimagining what your friendship actually is.
That's very true.
And I feel like it's better when you just meet someone and have like a good time with them, or you just meet someone and you trust them and you have a good time. But it's really hard when friendships change.
Yeah, that's really true.
You're like, oh, you used to be like the person I could go to when I was crying, and the person I could go to if I wanted to, run out and do errands all day, or the person I wanted to go to like laugh all night. Like they could just be the friend that you go to for anything and everything, and then it changes.
Yeah, I think that there can be issues if you expect a lot from them that they can't give you or don't give you. But there can also be issues if what you want to give to them is different than what they're giving to you.
Yeah.
Because that's another part of it. Like I remember at this time, like I was especially disappointed that this person couldn't be a rock to me, because I really wanted to be a rock to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I'm giving you so much friendship and love, and like I'm really, really here for you and I want to do that, then it hurts that you don't want to give me the same.
That's so true. Actually, now that I look back, it wasn't just that we no longer could expect that from them. It was also that
they could still expect it from us.
Yeah, but they weren't going to us for it. They were going to other people after they
didn't want it from us.
Going to us. Yeah. And we had been previously going to them. And so it just felt hurtful all around. Everything about that situation felt really hurtful. And ultimately came out in the end. I guess I'll say that.
It all comes out in the wash.
Yeah, it did. It came to a head.
We had to rinse and repeat a couple times, but eventually the cycle ended and we left the laundromat.
Well, so after the heat of like that year, I tried to really reimagine my friendship with that person, and I've had to do this with other people too. Like I had a best friend growing up, and we're on good terms, so I feel comfortable talking about her, without saying her name. But if you're listening to this, hello, I think you'll know who you are. I had a friend from like 6th grade to 12th grade, and she was my best friend, like my sister, like my rock, my everything. And we definitely had like we had a very like tumultuous friendship, just because we were young, but also because we both were dealing with things that we didn't necessarily, I mean, I knew about my anxiety and everything, but I don't think she had known about some of hers. And so we sometimes weren't communicating well because we didn't have the tools to express what was going on inside our heads. And we now have this really nice adult relationship where we see each other every once in a while, and we'll communicate every once in a while on social media, and we're excited for each other's lives, and we're happy for each other and happy to run into each other's family and whatever. But we after like high school stopped putting pressure on ourselves to like communicate every day. Like it used to be like we were texting each other 24/7. We did everything together. We looked for prom dresses together, whatever. And we just like during our senior year of high school, multiple roadblocks came up and our friendship started to fade. And we like finally had like a chat about it at the end of senior year. But at that point, like we weren't texting every day. We had different friend groups. We were just treating each other differently. And that ended up translating into like a really like nice adult relationship where again we don't talk all the time. We definitely like don't know everything going on in each other's lives, but every once in a while if we're in the same place, we'll meet up and we'll talk and we'll like, you know, catch up on things, but also just like talk as if we don't have to make it like all like, well, here's everything you missed. Sometimes we just like talk about whatever's going on in our lives and be like, what do you think about this? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's nice. It's a really nice thing for me. And it's not something that I ever really predicted with this friend. I thought that we were going to be like best friends for life. But I think that what made it so easy to transition was that we both were doing it at the same time. Like we both were like, we need to let go of each other and we need to recognize that we're not the same friends that we used to be when we were, 11 when we met each other, and we're not even the same friends that we used to be a year ago when we were 17 at the time, or 16. And because we both recognized that, we were able to really transition into like a healthy adult relationship that has a lot of separation. But that's hard. And I feel like the thing with the friend that we were just talking about is that we didn't have that. We were not on the same page. I was not ready to let go. Yeah. And they had already let go.
Well, I also think that the friendship that you just talked about brings to mind what I think of as one of the possible reasons that you can have friendships in your life, which is like ties to your hometown, to your childhood, to growing up, and those can be really strong. And again, like we didn't have that with this friend that we were talking about at first, so that's kind of part of it. Like I think that the more involved a person was in your childhood, the more they linger. Whereas like if you like, we made this friend that it's so hard to like reference people when we're not using names.
I know, it is weird, and I feel like weird and secretive, but a lot of people will know who we're talking about, and that's totally fine. It's not about keeping a secret, because I feel like if the person was in the room right now, they would agree with everything we're saying. It's literally just about like respecting them as a different person who didn't sign up to be part of our shenanigans.
Yeah. But with that person, neither of us had any ties to them before we went to college. So I just feel like when you do have that hometown connection with somebody, which you have with the second friend you were just talking about, that really means something. And I think that, like I said, that connection is a reason that you can a role that a friend can play in your life. Like they can be somebody that you can talk about your hometown with. You can talk about your high school experience. You can talk about your family, your parents, your childhood, the way you were raised.
Totally.
Like, all that kind of stuff.
I went through, literally my entire puberty. Like I literally was friends with her from 11 to 18.
Yeah.
And I went through a lot, and my family went through a lot. Like my family, she saw some really, she saw firsthand my reaction and my processing of certain things that were going on in my family.
Yeah.
That were hard on me. And, you know, I've talked about a couple of them already, like my Nana, but there's other stuff that I just haven't, it's not really necessarily my place to talk about. But yeah, she like witnessed me dealing with things like that. And I, in turn, did the same for her.
Right.
And when my parents were getting divorced when I was 21 or 20 rather, I remember I went home, or actually I think it was after they got divorced. So I didn't have my childhood home anymore. And I was living with a relative near my childhood home in a town over. And I had this weird sensation one day when I was driving where I was like, I just want to go lay on so-and-so's bed and just like watch her like pick out her outfit for dance, or like watch her. Like I feel like, because I used to just like go over her house after school, and I used to just like lay on her bed while she like got ready to like do whatever, or she was doing homework that I didn't have, or like whatever. And I got this like strong urge to just like go like lay on her bed and like shoot the shit and like feel some normalcy, because I no longer had my childhood home, and she felt like childhood to me, and I just like had this like strong feeling overcome me. And I think I even texted her, and that's what's sort of great about having her be in my life in like a pleasant way, whereas I could text her and be like, I miss when I used to hang out on your bed like and like take naps in your bed while you were doing homework. But
I used to, my hometown best friend and I used to go to these free concerts every summer, and the way that you remember and like sometimes get nostalgic about.
Are you talking about Earthfest?
No.
Okay.
Earthfest was like Boston's
like
version of the free concerts, but these were in Providence.
Okay.
But
like same.
Yeah, but like the way you talk about like sitting on their bed while they get ready and stuff, I know exactly what that feels like, because I distinctly remember getting ready for these concerts in my friend's bedroom, or like being in, like I would like sit on the toilet in her bathroom and she'd be like doing her makeup, and then I'd be like, oh, can I borrow that eyeshadow? Can you straighten my hair? Like,
oh my gosh, it's the best.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And for me, it's not that I've gone through like hard times in my family or anything that, well, I have gone through hard times in my family, but it's not those kinds of things that call those memories up to me. It's more when I get to thinking about how I've lost my younger self, that's when I get kind of like nostalgic for memories like that with this friend.
Yeah.
And it's not like I think about losing my younger self in like a bad way, because I think I'm, you know, a better person, a stronger person now. But sometimes I do just like think back to how different I was then, and I'm like, wow, she's the only person that knew me when I was different.
Yeah. And sorry, go on.
No, and I think what's different for you is that you have the friend you were talking about, but you also have a group of friends from your hometown that you also can talk to about hometown stuff.
I love those guys. Hi, guys.
Even I love those guys.
The sexy people. That's the name of our group chat.
But also
sexy people group message. I don't know why I didn't name it. I think I was brought into the group. Like I wasn't in the OG group.
But yeah, this friend I'm talking about is the only friend that I still actively have that knew me when I was in high school. So just when I was thinking about the theme of this episode, and I was thinking about the different reasons and the different roles that friends can play, I really strongly think that like hometown friends, or like childhood friends, or friends that knew you in high school, those types of things, that is a really strong reason in itself. Even if it's the only reason, it's still a really strong reason.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was just going to say that I like accidentally almost interrupted you with. But Here to all of that. I'm trying to like make the thought come back.
I have a thought.
Okay.
If you want me to share.
Sure.
I think that I am someone, and I'm saying. Oh, do you want to say it?
I
feel
just
like you should
remembered
say
it.
it now that you remembered, because I don't want you to forget again. I'll remember mine.
Okay.
We're like playing tag.
I'm
with
trying to
like
hold on to it.
statements.
Well, it's the reason I'm having trouble remembering is because it's tied to something you said.
Okay.
So I think something that you just said that really hit me was when you were talking about how, you know, having a friend that knows you at a time where you're now different than who you were in that time. And I think that it feels like it's such growing pains when you recognize that you've changed. I remember like senior year of high school recognizing that I changed and recognizing that she changed. And, you know, when both of you like love each other so much and you're like, I want to be able to be that old person so that I can fit with you and fit with your old person. But when you and especially it's hard when one of you changes, which I kind of think is what we were talking about with that original friend is, you know, one person changes or their priorities change or the things that they're doing change and in turn changes them and you haven't changed. Yeah. And it's not in a bad like sometimes like I would say that the change that me and my high school friend exhibited were both changes like for the better because it was us literally just growing. Whereas like in college, the change that person exhibited wasn't necessarily good or bad, and me not changing wasn't necessarily good or bad. It's not like I was like a piece of shit and needed to change or like needed to grow up. Like we were all like fine. We just grew in different directions. And I feel like it is hard when you have a friend who you're like, I wish that like all it would take for us to be friends is for me to change back to who I was, but I can't because I've had this life experience or I've gone through, you know, this thing and I no longer view myself the same way. And I feel like that's something that you've gone through with friendships is like you view yourself completely differently and you, because of that, expect to be treated differently than how you've been treated in the past. And when that doesn't happen, you're like, well, now I don't know how to mesh with this anymore. Like, I literally don't know how to be that old person because I've just grown like leaps and bounds.
Yeah. And that it makes me want to somehow wiggle through the change and whatever's like going on in the present moment and like figure it out and solve it. But it also sometimes makes me just like wish that I was the old me. So I'd be like, oh, this would just be so much easier to handle if I was the old me. And then I have to be like, no, Marissa, you don't wish you were the old you because she didn't respect herself as much, I guess would be the description.
Yeah, or didn't command the same respect.
Yeah.
It also is really funny to talk about like the old me because I feel like you have like you went through very distinct phases, whereas I kind of didn't. Like you literally went through like an emo phase in middle school and like, you know, I just feel like you had very distinct phases that maybe you're calling back to when you say the old me. Yeah. Whereas I'm just kind of picturing me, but like I'm imagining like the same me, but like minus a lot of like knowledge. Like I'm like, okay, like me, but like didn't know that journalism wasn't journaling. Yeah. Just kidding. I mean, I didn't literally think that, but I like the same me, but like who hadn't had to live on her own yet. Same me, but like didn't know what dating a guy was like. And I don't know.
I feel like in the way that you just described our friend or us and our friend, like changing in different directions instead of just like growing up. I think that's kind of how I think of what you just said, where like you just like grew on an upward plane, but I kind of like would occasionally plateau and go to the left, then I go back, then I go to the right, then I go up a little, then I go down a little.
You wanna go to the left.
Then I went to the left, then I went to the right. Yeah. Oh, what I was gonna say is that I'm saying this as if it's unique to me, but I know it's probably not. But I think I'm someone who has experienced a lot of different combinations of friendships, I guess I would say. Like, I've experienced literally only having one friend. Like, one, not only like one best friend, but just like one friend. Like, one person that I hung out with, one person I slept over their house. Like, that's
When
it.
was this?
Elementary school. There was only one like, I had friends in like Girl Scouts and in class and stuff, but like there was literally only one person that I would sleep over their house. So I had that, and then there was a period in high school where I felt like I didn't, or more like middle school, I guess, I felt like I didn't have a best friend at all. So instead of, this was like an in-between period where I wasn't friends with that elementary school best friend anymore, but I hadn't met the best friend that I was talking about from high school yet. So I literally felt like I wasn't calling anyone my best friend, and no one was calling me their best friend. So there's that phase. And then there was high school where I had a definitive best friend that, like, they were my best friend, I was theirs. But I also had friends for different reasons in high school because of different clubs, different classes, stuff like that. And this best friend wasn't in any of those, like, didn't go to my high school, wasn't in any of the same things with me. So that was another unique combination. And then college was also very different because that was the first time that I thought of myself as having multiple best friends. Like, I always thought of it as, like, before college, I would always say, this person's my best friend. But in college, there were multiple people that I would say that about. And that's still true now.
Yeah.
So I just feel like
Isn't that weird how we took the phrase best friend, and it's like that literally means the best of your friends.
Yeah.
But we say it to multiple people, but that's literally not possible because anyway, I think about that often. It gives me gives me weird vibes. It gives me weird vibes. I don't know why I'm getting a pain in my tooth right now. Sorry. I'm like going through something. But yeah, sometimes I think about that and I'm like, that is so weird, and we should just call people friends.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm thinking about it a lot now is that when you think of having different friends for different reasons, I think that it's dangerous is too harsh of a word, but it's maybe like problematic if you only do have one friend or you only do have one best friend, because that kind of naturally makes you expect them to play every role in your life and be there for every reason. Whereas now that I've gotten to have multiple best friends, I've realized that you don't have to expect everything from every person. And now that I'm saying this out loud, I think that that's exactly what my problem was with OG friend we were talking about at the beginning. Because at that time, I think it must have been towards the beginning of college, maybe like sophomore year, because I remember that at that time, I was still in a mode where I was used to only having one best friend. So I expected everything from every person.
Yeah.
Even though I was starting to have more people, I still expected everything from all of them. Yeah. Because that's what I had done growing up. But yeah, I think that was literally the turning point for me, like you telling me that, where I was like, oh, I can have multiple people that I love and that I consider my best and closest friends, but they don't all have to be my everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I wanted to touch on in this episode, and I feel like it just hasn't completely come up naturally for me because we ended up just like having conversation instead of trying to go down bullet points, was that I feel like a lot of friendships are like born out of convenience. Well, actually, take that back. All friendships are born out of convenience.
Yeah, I like this theory. I think it's a good one.
Well, it's true, because when you think about it, the reason you become friends with someone, or like literally the reason you meet someone, is because you work with them, or you go to class with them, or you play a sport with them, or you're in an a cappella group with them, or, you know, whatever reason, or your mom's best friend has a kid, and like it's all out of convenience. And it's whether or not, and relationships are like this too, and because I guess a friendship is a type of relationship, but everything starts out in convenience.
Yeah.
And it's whether or not you actually remain friends when the convenience is gone that shows your friendship.
Yep.
And the thing with that OG friend that you were just talking about is that I guess this does tie in, is that the convenience was gone. But like, because they were on a completely different schedule and it was no longer convenient to just hang out. And so we stopped factoring each other in and making that time.
But I think the growing pains were that we were all still going to the same school.
Yeah.
So even though it wasn't convenient anymore, it still was like very possible.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it hurt so much, because like it stopped being extremely convenient, but it was still easy enough.
Yeah. I just feel like schedule-wise it was like weird.
Yeah.
But I've
true.
noticed this with a lot of friends, and I've had people in my life who I don't expect them to actually stay friends with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of one particular person, and I met him through work, and if he's listening to this, hello, maybe you'll know who you are. I met him through work, and he's a little bit older than me, and we always just had we always had really good conversations, and he was always nice to me when he didn't really have to be. Like, I was like just like new kid on the block kind of thing, and we ended up like staying friends, and I was like, we're not gonna stay friends. I remember saying to him, like, are we still gonna be friends even though I'm moving to a new job?
Yeah.
And we stayed friends, and it's just funny to me how like sometimes that happens. Like, sometimes you have friends who like you end up when the convenience is gone, you're no longer at that job, you're no longer in that class, you're no longer doing that club, whatever, you stay friends because you have enough in common, or you enjoy each other's company enough that you make time, or you just like make a point to like say hi and reach out and whatever. And I feel like all the people that I have in my life now, that it's because we passed that one test, which was like the convenience factor was gone.
Totally.
I also can think of like other coworkers that's happened with, where it's no longer been convenient for us to like chum around, but we do. And not just coworkers, people from college, you know, who don't necessarily live close by, but we're still constantly reaching out to each other, or as frequently as our friendship feels it necessary to, because you know, you don't have to talk to someone every day to be best friends. And that really has been the true test of friendship for me, is whenever the convenience thing goes away, do we still make a point to keep each other around?
Yeah. The reason that I love that theory so much is because people talk about convenience like it's inherently a bad thing. Like, if you call someone a friend of convenience, then that's kind of saying like, I'm only friends with you because it's easy to be. But it's not. I guess it can be sort of a negative thing if that's like the only reason that you're friends and they don't end up supporting you or being there for you or whatever. But the way that you're framing it is like, it's convenience isn't inherently bad. It's just only the beginning.
It's natural because you have to meet someone somewhere. And how would you meet someone if they lived in Idaho and you live in Boston?
Yeah.
And you have no way of getting, like, how the fuck would you become friends with them? It's all based on convenience. They're your neighbor or something. That's how I became friends with you. We were in the same a cappella group.
Yeah.
So we were spending time around each other.
The people in my life now are actually, this is interesting. All the people in my life now that I consider my best friends are best friends of mine, not because of, how do I describe this?
The origin of how you became friends?
No, more like, well, yeah, but it's, all of them were things that were voluntary, that like I chose to do. So like, these are the examples. Instead of my hometown best friend being from high school, where like you're going to go to high school, you're going to classes, she was from camp.
Yeah.
Where I chose to go every summer.
Yeah.
My other best friend from around where I grew up, we met working together at Monster Mini Golf.
Shout out.
Shout out to Paige.
I think
I
that
know
also
you listen.
Shows that like that's where like you both had to come to the conclusion on your own to do those things, so you already had that in common.
I never even realized this. And like with you and our friends that we keep in touch with from college, they're all from our acapella group.
And what's funny about that too is that we always say that we forget that that's why we're friends.
Yeah.
Because that no longer is why we're friends. We're not friends because we were an acquired taste. We're friends because we're friends.
Yeah.
But I did joke last week when we were all like staying together, I was like, guys, remember when we were in an acapella group together? Just because sometimes it feels so random that like we're now all in like our mid-20s and we're like, oh yeah, remember when we used to like harmonize with each other for
but
fun?
even though it feels arbitrary now because we've like gone through so much with each other since then, you're right, like it is cool that we met because we all had a shared interest in something.
Yeah.
And that's I never would have realized that like I don't have any close friends now that are my friends just because like because of passive things. Like I'm not best friends with anybody who I had a class with or they grew up near me or we went to high school together. Like all of the people that I'm best friends with is because of things that I elected to do based on my interest and my personality.
Yeah, I think same for me.
So interesting.
Because like my people from the couple of people that I'm thinking of that I talk to regularly from my last job, it's like, well, we all chose journalism. We all chose news. You know, my high school group of friends, we were all doing theater. Like it's not like we just all went to high school together. We all did theater except for like maybe one person in the group, but that's fine. It's totally cool.
Well, this helps me identify part of why I feel so strange looking at the people from my high school that are still friends. Like, I feel like you'll know the type of people that I'm talking about. Just like the people
the girls with the tie-dye t-shirts.
Yeah, like the cool girls from high school who were like, they weren't all friends. Maybe they were friends because they played a sport or something, but I don't know anything about that. They seemed like they were friends because they lived near each other or they were all popular. But like the fact that those people are all still friends now, I'm like, I can't compute that in my brain. And I think that it is because I'm only close with people who were beyond that.
Do they still live near each other?
Yeah.
So it's still convenient. Wait until it's not convenient, and then we'll see. Here on Apartment 6, we're all about making revelations.
That's true. That's so true. It's just always been convenient.
The people I would be chumming around with, if I was at home, I might be... Well, no, I'd just be with my best friends. But, you know, like it's... I don't know. It's... You make different choices based on the situation you're in. And like I said, when the convenience is gone, see what happens. Same thing with relationships. I feel like you could say that my breakup with my first boyfriend, it was like as soon as it wasn't convenient to be with each other anymore, we stopped factoring each other in.
Yes.
It started being like, I don't really feel like, I don't know if I even want to travel that far to be with you. Not that far, but like I don't think I want to do that. I think I would rather just stay home. And it's like, what does that mean?
That's so true because my last relationship was very inconvenient.
Yeah.
And I've said to you multiple times that like I wish I just could have known what it felt like to have things be convenient with him, like to have him live nearby or, you know, just have it be easier for us to see each other because it was harder for us to like commute to go see each other. So yeah, I've never thought about it in terms of relationships, but that's so true. But at the same time, I think that having it be inconvenient was a good way for me to know for sure that I didn't like him enough to go through that.
Romantic friendships and romantic relationships totally can last past the convenience, but that also requires that you do have like a foundation of things that you enjoy. Like again, like my whole theory is that like friends only last past convenient, like that the big test is like to take the convenience away and then see what happens to the friendship. But what we have now been saying is like the reason the friendships that we have lasted past them being convenient is because we had things in common with them and because we enjoyed them beyond just like, oh, like you're easy to like, I can walk over to your house and borrow eggs from you if I need
or
it.
we
like,
can
whatever.
Share books or
like
do homework.
It is literally like we have good conversations. Like we, you know, enjoy each other's company in some capacity. And so relationships that can work. Like I I have really liked people, like romantically. I've had feelings for people who it wasn't convenient at all to be with them, and yet I still wanted to be with them because I liked them.
I think that is kind of great. I'm always trying to like.
What is kind of great? What do you mean?
I literally don't know what just came out of my mouth.
Remember when you said, what did you
as
say?
always?
Yeah. And as always? Yeah. I think I cut that out of the vlog. Oh my God. I'm sick of YouTube. I need to stop watching it.
I feel like I'm always trying to like, I don't know if this was like something that I was taught in like college writing classes, or if this is like a high school writing, like 5 paragraph
sum it up
essay. Well, sum it up, but also like broaden it. Like I feel like I was taught somewhere in my like writing education to, at the end of something, like broaden your thesis to make it more universal and like give people something to take into their own life from it. So I feel like I'm always trying to do that with this podcast, but I feel like what we've just been saying in the last few minutes is kind of a good test if you're unsure about a friendship, even if it is convenient at the time. So you can't really test out the theory of like, see what happens when it's not. I think it's easy enough to imagine that it's not. Like if you were to just imagine it and say, how would I feel if this person moved across the country?
You know what you're trying to do? You're trying to turn this into a teachable moment.
I know.
That's what it is. You're not trying to necessarily broaden or like conclusion it. You're trying to conclusion it. Is a conclusion is a verb? Well, no. You're trying to literally make this teachable moment and say, hi everyone, now that we've talked about this, let's see how we can implement it into your own life. And I respect the hell out of it. I really do.
I'm trying to give people a golden nugget of wisdom.
I do this in my stories at work all the time, so I totally respect it.
Yeah, but I feel like that is a good question to ask yourself. Like, if you have a friend where you're like, am I friends with them out of convenience? Or like, do I need this friendship in my life? Is it serving me? Those types of things. I feel like an easy way to imagine it is, what would it be like if they moved across the country or across the world or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, would we still see each other? Would I still want to see them? Would I say, oh, they're halfway around the world now, I don't need to see them. Phew. Like, how do you think your gut would react if they moved away? And if your gut is like, oh, it doesn't matter, like I'd always be friends with them no matter where they go, then there's your answer.
That's just dandy.
Then you got a friend.
You got a friend in me. So one of the things that we wrote down that we wanted to talk about was how this advice had helped both of us. You said that you wished that you'd heard it sooner. So I felt like that would be a good way to end it, was just like what this advice ultimately has meant for us.
Yeah, I think that to bring it full circle, which I love to do, it's really about managing expectations. And I don't think that you can possibly manage your expectations if you don't accept the fact that they could be too high. Like, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow, I think, to realize like it's possible that this person isn't going to give me everything I want, and that's okay. Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say I wish I would have heard that sooner, because that's the exact lesson I would have learned. I would have said, it's not all or nothing. It's not be in my life for every reason or no reason at all. It's be in my life for every reason, or be in my life for some reasons, or be in my life for no reasons. There's that like middle ground that's still very acceptable for a friendship that I honestly didn't know existed.
Yeah, and I think that part in particular is exclusive to friendships, because I feel like your relationship can't be like, it's just for a good time, unless you're having like a casual relationship. But I mean, like, if you're like trying to marry someone who's just your good time guy, like maybe rethink it. But I do feel like, say your relationship, like you can talk to the person and get a lot out of it, but like they're not like necessarily, like you still go to your friends for certain things, like that's totally fine. But I guess I do sort of feel like this is sort of like unique to friendships, where you could literally have like, you could have one complete friend, but in 5 different people. And
yeah,
that's okay.
And it's okay on both sides of the coin. Like, it's okay if you're not getting everything from them and you're still friends. Like, you don't have to say like, oh, I'm ashamed for still being friends with this person if they're not everything to me. Or it's totally fine if you do feel that way and you do say, I'm not going to accept halfway from a friend. It's kind of about, it's about what you're willing to accept, but I think you also need to accept that you can accept. You also need to accept that you are allowed to accept whatever feels comfortable.
Yes.
Like, it's okay if you accept everything from someone. It's okay if you accept just being a good time. It's okay if you accept being a shoulder to cry on, but not a fun time. Like, everything's okay as long as you feel
okay. You guys, everyone, just shut up. Shut up. Everything's okay.
It's okay as long as you feel that it's okay.
Yes, exactly. It's all about consent, right?
Yeah, because I think, I mean,
like, it's about
we're talking so, like,
it's about saying, it's about recognizing what, or you're okay. If you're in a friendship that just feels icky to you, get out of it. But if you're like me and you have a friend who maybe your friendship is changing and you're okay with, relying on each other less, and you're okay with not being everything to each other, then that's great.
Because I think what we're trying to say is that friendships are subjective, not objective. Because I've had friendships where I'm like, wow, if you looked at this from the outside, you wouldn't think that this was a great friend or something. But like, to me, I was getting what I needed out of that person and I felt okay with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, friendship is subjective. It's about what you want from it.
Yes. And thank you to my mom for giving me this advice, and then by transitive property giving this advice to Marissa.
Yes, thank you.
It's taught us a lot, and yeah, I feel like it's something I've carried with me through life. And whenever I've sort of felt like I'm hitting a rocky spot with a friend, I've sort of thought to myself, well, what do I really want out of this friendship? And, what do they, want from me? And am I able to meet that? And are they meeting me? And I'm able, that gives me a lot of comfort to take my power back and take some control and say, this isn't being done to me. I can reimagine how I see this person in my life, and I can go to other people for other reasons, and other needs. Mm-hmm. That's been Apartment 6, episode 8, baby.
Wow, 8 is great. I'm gonna eat that last sliver of cake now.
I'm gonna have some Dunkers.
I'm gonna just bring...
Even though I sat on my bed and ate a bunch earlier today.
Picture this. Circular cake, plastic container, tiny sliver left, but also a little bit of like frosting on the rim.
Do you think it's gonna be stale? Like, when cake gets kind of hard on the outside, it could. You don't know.
Maybe. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the whole thing and put it on my lap and just eat whatever's good from it, and then.
Are you gonna have ice cream too?
No.
Oh.
Sorry.
That would definitely help with any cake
to like soak up. That's true, actually.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
But my ice cream is like expensive oat milk ice cream, so I'm like, I can't waste it.
Just a teeny little
It's a delicacy. It was like $6.
We also have the coffee ice cream in the fridge.
Oh my god, we've had that forever.
Yeah.
Fridge tour. Just kidding. Episode 9's gonna be a list of everything we have in our fridge.
Yeah.
Let us know if you're looking forward to it. No, just kidding.
As always, I'm going to be the Marissa at the end of this episode. Let us know if you... That was my Marissa impression.
Is that what I sound like?
No, you sound kind of...
Let us know.
You always sound sing-songy at the end of the episode. I can get like high-pitched. Let us know what you want to hear from us. And let us know if you enjoyed this episode. Hey, yeah.
Dare I say outro music?
Outro music, baby.
Bye.
Bye.